the one fuck they gave Scooby that.
Oh yeah, okay.
Accidentally sent them over the edge, and they had to cut that.
Where are you going to put the fuck in this movie for PG-13? Where are you going to put it? I think I want to give it to Scrappy. Here at Adaptive Difficulty, we pose the challenging question: books aren't movies, but what if they could be? Today, we are watching and discussing James Gunn's 2002 film, Scooby Doo, based on the Scooby Doo franchise that began in 1969. You cannot start the episode.
I'm Rosh.
No.
Hello,
okay,
I'm Josh.
I'm Cameron. I guess I'll put my name to this. How long were you thinking about that? Like, you were like, I'm going to do this?
Once the shit-eating grin crossed my face and you started to look worried, that was when the idea first struck me.
Okay. So about 10 seconds ago. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad to know it wasn't premeditated.
No, the premeditated one was introducing myself as Melvin Dew, because that is the best joke in this movie.
You don't think that the Scrappy peeing on Daphne is a funny joke?
I think it was really funny when he peed on him, or on her, and then one of the characters was like, "You're peeing on Daphne," and he goes like, "Ooh." It was that extra little twang on it that made it funny this time. But just the fact that he was peeing on Daphne was not that funny. It was, it was like, ooh.
You didn't like the 10-minute fart sequence? That's another good sequence on this.
Or burping sequence. Both,
it's mostly farts.
I think that is good in a way. Not in a way because burps and farts are that funny. But I will get to it later, I guess.
Okay. Well then, I suppose we should just get started with what is your past experience with Scooby Doo?
I think this is an interesting one because this movie is most of my past experience with Scooby Doo.
Really? So you weren't like a cartoon head?
Like, I was aware of Scooby Doo, and I definitely saw some of the cartoons as a kid. And like, I knew the characters enough to get like, oh, this movie is kind of like an exaggeration of them. But I saw this movie more frequently. Like, I had both of the movies on DVD, and I probably saw this movie, if not before I ever saw Scooby Doo stuff, like the same amount as I saw any other Scooby Doo stuff.
I'm a big Scooby Doo head because I've seen the original Scooby Doo, Where Are You? A Pup Named Scooby Doo, What's New Scooby Doo? Pretty much all the movies, or at least all the movies that were there whenever I was a child at that point. Like, it's like a big thing that I watched a lot of as a child, so I have very strong opinions.
So you were a big like
Doo head,
old cartoon head, because you also said similar things about Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I had access to Boomerang the channel. So that covers a lot of all those cartoons.
Did you like this movie as a kid?
Oh, yeah. I mean, is there any child below the age of 6 that would have seen this movie and not liked it?
Well, children below the age of 6 like when there's moving colors in front of them, so.
No, I like this movie. I like this movie as a child. I like this movie still, but maybe in different ways.
I also remember having, this is one my wife remembers more than me, but having the like Scooby Doo Castle or House of a Thousand Frights PS2 video game. I don't think I ever made it inside the house. You like start in the yard.
What do you mean?
I was really bad at video games until I was like 10. So
even still, like
I think the majority of video games I started below the age of 10, I did not make what you could call progress in, no matter how much I played them.
The peripheral like side content of Scooby-Doo, for me, the most memorable aspect, you remember Push Pops? They still make them. They used to have like a Scooby-Doo version where you could turn the box into the mystery machine and use the little push things as wheels. And I can recall...
This is like TikTok, like nostalgia bait content, but the most important periphery Scooby-Doo thing is the gummies, where Scooby was like the solid blue one and the best one, and all the others were kind of see-through. Specifically the part where you're like, it's like and share if you remember the solid blue gummy in the Scooby snacks or whatever.
Why was he the solid blue gummy and everyone else was translucent?
Laced with THC.
Yeah, I recall those. I prefer the Krabby Patty gummies to the Scooby Doo gummies, but that may be controversial.
Those were more... The Krabby Patty gummies are like a stocking stuffer novelty. Scooby gummies are a standby, a vanguard.
And that's why you like the Krabby Patty gummies more, because you get them less often. It's like Easter Bunny chocolate's not that good in comparison to normal chocolate. Sorry for the perhaps glitch in the audio. We had a rescue mission we had to pull off. I say we, it was really Josh.
My wife went on a walk, and then it started to rain and needed saving. The important thing in life is not saving your wife, but that Scooby Doo snacks are a delicacy.
That's true. Well, it depends on like which canon you go for, because sometimes it's like everyone likes them. Sometimes it's like it's just Scooby.
Where do we stand in real life on the ones that are basically graham crackers?
I mean, utterly disappointing in the same way that all the Willy Wonka branded candy is also disappointing because it doesn't make you fly or whatever. Where do you stand on it?
Gobstoppers kind of beat it, though. Yeah, I like normal graham crackers better. This is poisonous audio, but okay. There's not that much to say about the fact that like we watched Scooby Doo or not as kids, but since we've invoked the Scooby snacks, how do we feel in this movie about the fact that someone just announces unprompted that they eat dog food to someone who they have no idea whether they are cool with that or not?
Well, like, I mean, he asked her, he's like, are those Scooby snacks? And he didn't say it in like a, oh my God, are you eating dog food kind of way, but like, oh, that's kind of an interesting thing. And they're vegetarian,
but
Josh.
Like, imagine you get on a plane and you see someone eating really thickly streaked pieces of bacon and you're like, are those bacon strips? That person would not be like, yeah, I love them. They're carnivore diet. They're so good.
No, there's absolutely, like, that's not even like, on a plane full of like 150 people, Josh, that person maybe cracks top, 75 of terrible passengers.
Well, they're not necessarily a terrible passenger, because why would it matter at all to anybody else? But it's just not, you would not do it. you like, it only makes sense if Scooby snacks are dog food treats. Shaggy is the only human it makes sense, because he's the only human actively communing with a dog on a day-to-day basis for the dog to be like, you gotta try these, they're gas.
So they're clearly named after Scooby. Does that like at what point was the brand deal kind of launched into being like, we're gonna get these Mystery Machine teens and get them to sell dog treats?
As we all know, and is invoked in this movie, Scooby's name is Scoobert. I don't know where I'm going with that, other than they would be Scoobert snacks if they were.
I mean, they're called, they're just named after the nickname that everyone calls him. Like, I mean, yeah, his legal name, if he was brought before a court of law, would be Scoobert Cornelius Dew or something.
But maybe in the Scooby Doo universe, Scoobert is like the equivalent of like Jack or Oreo or whatever. Like, it's a very common dog name.
I mean, there actually is probably an answer to this, because there is the Scooby Doo, the First Mystery or whatever, which is like a canonical like prequel to these movies. And I feel like maybe what happened was Shaggy found the dog, and then he started eating Scooby snacks, and so he named him Scooby. Are you Googling this?
Is Scooby named after the snacks, or are the snacks named after Scooby? r/ask science fiction 9 years ago.
Science fiction?
In A Pup Named Scooby Doo, the gang made the treats, and then Daphne's dad decided to sell them.
That's wonderfully
and
unhelpful.
Be Cool Scooby Doo, a company that makes sorcerer snacks, renames them after someone dresses up as the sorcerer and attacks.
Oh, so it's like a rebranding kind of.
So I guess in that, it's like the mystery team, mystery gang solves the mystery, and they're like, well, let's get a brand deal with the people who figured out our crimes.
Well, I imagine it's probably more like the company was like, it was a disgruntled employee who was committing crimes against the company.
It's like a Jared from Subway situation where your mascot...
Honestly, I didn't want to bring up Jared
breaks
from Subway.
bad. Moving on.
So what episodes did you watch?
I watched an episode of the original series, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?, set at a theme park.
Oh, okay. I didn't watch that.
Because I just browsed the summaries until they sounded kind of relevant. It was... So the problem I had with the two episodes I did watch is... They both had exactly one other character other than the Mystery Incorporated gang.
Yeah. It's very obvious, like, who the villain is.
Yeah. It was like, you need, like... I mean, at minimum, you need two, but preferably three or more. So that one was like, a robot was terrorizing the theme park, and it turned out that a guy, the owner, the caretaker, like, was trying to drum up enough robots to fully staff the park. And at the end, they were like, children don't need robots, they need humans. And
wow, what a prescient look into our future.
That's what my wife said as we watched it. And then the second one I watched was Tiki themed on an island, because I was like, that also seems relevant. Which again, I called this one, there was more than one character that's not in Mystery Inc., but there was only one more character that was white that was not in Mystery Inc. And so I called that it was him because the others did not have relevant speaking parts.
That's funny.
But it was kind of based because he was like trying to drum up superstition and scare the locals away so he could steal the natural resources. It was an anti-colonial Scooby Doo episode.
I have a funny one I want to talk about, but I'm going to talk about that one in a little bit. I watched the first episode of Scooby Doo it's called What a Night for a Night. It is the worst episode of Scooby Doo I think I've ever seen.
Why?
So it has like the general, it has all the bones of it. So like there's a mystery involved and they're going through and investigating, but they don't do any investigating. So the idea is that there's a mysterious black knight who awakes during the full moon and it kind of does things. They take it to a museum and then one of the museum people disappears. And so they're like searching the museum. And that's all they do for like 18 out of the 22 minutes of this episode is walk through museums with the same painted background again and again and again.
Well, I mean, I had that thought too during the Tiki one, because there's kind of like two villains during that one. There's this huge lumbering automaton type thing, and there's a man in a tiki mask who, of course, is the actual villain, and the other thing's a robot he made. And every time they saw the man in the tiki mask, they ran the opposite direction. And I was just thinking, he doesn't really pose that much of an imminent threat. If you're investigating this, then you should just jump him and take his mask off.
That is true. I mean, it's one of those things where it's a cartoon from the 70s designed for children. They weren't putting that much thought into it.
Are they high schoolers in...
They are, because there's a line in the first episode where they talk about Scooby, or about Shaggy being the best gymnast in their school. And then he does a somersault and falls a bunch of feet. He crashes, but apparently he's a very renowned gymnast, and he's also a ventriloquist because he throws his voice around.
Because in the Tiki one, they mentioned that they were on their 49th straight luau, and it was just boggling the mind how 4 high schoolers and a dog went to Hawaii for 49 luau's in a row.
Well, I mean, Hawaii at this point, it's just throwing luau's constantly for guests.
I mean, at best, I guess if he went to breakfast, lunch, and dinner luau's, which is Shaggy, so he probably did, you're down to a 2-week vacation, but still.
I watched that one. I watched ones that I recall watching as a child to see if they stand up. The Mind Your Own Business, which is about a haunted mine. It's okay. I give it a 5 out of 10. And Which Witch is Which? This one's set in the Louisiana Bayou or something. That one's a solid 8 out of 10. And the one I want to bring up, and this is the based one. It's called That's Snow Ghost. It's the last episode of season 1, and they crawl into a cave and they find a Tibetan person who has decorated the cave with their belongings because he's hiding out or whatever. And Shaggy's this looks like my trip to Chinatown. And then Velma's this is Tibetan stuff. And so I'm they recognize the independence of Tibet from the People's Republic of China.
Interesting. The only other one I watched was actually an episode of What's New, Scooby Doo. Because I was this series aired the same year as the movie came out. So what was in the air Scooby-wise that year.
That's the one I recall
honestly,
the most.
Yeah, it was fine. I did not pay as much attention to it, probably because it was less novel. It just felt like TV from when I was a kid, whereas I was not as familiar with TV from 1970. But I think the dialogue was a little more clever. It was more dialogue focused than the old show was. It was fine. I like the theme song. It's pop punk theme song.
I think, honestly, all the Scooby-Doo stuff had good theme songs. So I think of a pup named Scooby-Doo, that one had a banger theme song.
I'm curious to maybe in the future watch Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, because it's Scooby-Doo with a continuity.
When are we going to watch Velma?
The Netflix Crass show that Mindy Kaling wrote. I never say never, I guess.
Did you watch... I guess you didn't watch the Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo show, right?
No, because you had to pay $2 to rent it.
Oh, I watched it on YouTube, chopped up into 6 episodes of 3.5 minutes apiece.
I think I found that, and then I ran out of time to actually watch it, or I forgot about it.
All I will say, Scrappy-Doo deserves every bit of hate that he gets from every character in this movie.
That was the whole thing, right? It's that the generation that wrote this movie, which is James Gunn of now Marvel and DC fame, he was the enemy of their childhoods because he ruined Scooby-Doo, which is why he's the villain here.
Oh, I saw an interview where he was just shocked to learn that people were real upset about how he made Scrappy-Doo the villain, apparently.
I did see some weird Reddit thread where it was r/Scooby-Doo, and series-specific subreddits for series that, like, A, childish, and B, old are always strange, but someone was like, people only say they don't like Scrappy Doo and the Scrappy Doo series for clout. So I think that's becoming... I think Scrappy Doo is having a comeback among the real Scooby heads online.
No, that episode was terrible. And, it's the first episode of a series, so they've not fleshed out their kind of character thing or whatever. But I swear, I think 80% of the dialogue comes from Scrappy.
How many people does he pee on?
None. I would have been behind Scrappy if that had happened.
Also, I heard that Fred and Velma are not in, like, they had not been in a series since the early 80s when they got reintroduced into What's New Scooby Doo, which is crazy to me.
Well, they were in the Scrappy Doo show, so I don't know.
Because my impression was, for some reason, it was like Scrappy Doo, Scooby Doo, Shaggy, and then they like called on Daphne as like a contact. But again, I didn't watch it.
That one sounds familiar, as like at least in terms of concepts. I mean, they tried a bunch of things over the years because, don't mix up the formula, you get canceled, especially back then. So
I already said I think we might rely on your notes a little more here because mine are scant. Okay. But I do think the opening is a good little microcosm of Scooby Doo. It's a fun adventure to set it up and to do like the classic format one time.
Yeah, and I think that it does a good job of setting up what the characterization for these characters are, because they're not really. I mean, you only watched a couple episodes, but the whole like Daphne's a damsel in distress. I mean, I watched 4 episodes from the original series or whatever, and I didn't really notice Daphne getting kidnapped any more than any other characters. So I wonder at like what point in the series of like multiple different series that became a recurring trope enough to call upon it.
I wrote down that honestly they made Fred and Daphne both more airheaded and dumb than they ever came across in the episodes I watched.
Yeah, I never got, like, Fred's a very himbo fuckboy in this movie, and I'm like, I don't really think that's how he was characterized in the show.
In the original show, his character is that he's the one who makes the traps.
Yeah.
And he's kind of just always thinking about traps.
Very, I don't know, I was thinking about them in the context of the 5-man band kind of TV trope thing, and he's both the leader and also kind of the person who, like, accomplishes things, so.
Well, so one thing I learned, kind of looking things up as I watched, is that all the Scooby-Doo characters are based on a sitcom called The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis.
This is a fake sitcom. It still doesn't exist. You're lying to me.
It was a live-action high school sitcom, and Fred would be Dobie Gillis, who's popular sporting guy, and then like Velma and Daphne would have been different, I guess, love interests of his throughout the series, kind of Archie style, and Shaggy is the breakout character, Maynard Curb. So sort of like Urkel, where a side character steals the show. Maynard Curb was the first beatnik to ever be represented on TV. And so even though the show was made in the 70s, and everybody's like, oh, Shaggy's a hippie stoner, he's a reference to stoner culture of the 70s, he's actually a reference to beatniks from like 15 years ago.
I mean, I never really got the impression from the cartoons that Shaggy was a stoner, at least until, like, maybe the foodie aspect of it, where he's eating weird things, but beyond that, not really. Where I think they really ham it up in this movie.
I don't know. Maybe we need to do the recursive thing and put down watching The Many Lives of Dobie Gillis and then watching episodes of the original Scooby-Doo as a subject for this podcast in the future. And then we need to figure out what The Many Lives of Dobie Gillis was stealing from until we get back to the Bible or something.
Yeah, the greatest story ever told.
That would be an interesting. This is not our podcast, but that would be an interesting project to just like pick a random piece of fiction and follow its influences as far back as you can, like provably do their genealogy.
It's like the Wikipedia race kind of thing.
Yeah, let's keep that in mind.
Okay, if we ever need to ditch this podcast because one of us has something cancel worthy, we can just pivot to another podcast with voice changers.
If we ever, I mean, someday when we have a Patreon, we'll need things that we're not doing on this feed. And then I don't have another comment until they're on the island. So
I'm trying to think. I find it funnier now than I did back then. When Scooby's dressed as a grandma and he's like walking through the airport and they just have this, like everyone is looking at Scooby as if he's like the sexiest woman alive. It has like several like groups of children go by and like they look back at her too. And I'm just like, what's going on?
Yeah, that is good. That's not necessarily a joke you would see in the original series, but I think this movie does a good job of operating on cartoon logic, but in live action. and just letting it happen. And that's
Well, I mean, like no one recognizes it's the cast recognizes it's Scooby except for Fred, who's a himbo and can't think of a thought.
And then we've already covered admitting that you eat dog food on the plane. So that's the main thing that happens there, I would say.
At what age were you when you realized that her name was Mary Jane and that was a slang for marijuana? Because it took me, for a long time.
Probably when we watched this in college as a group.
Uh-huh.
I think I probably hadn't seen it since like middle school. And then I had just like read people reference the joke on Reddit and stuff until I then rewatched it in college. And I was like, oh, hey, there's the joke.
Well, then we get to Spooky Island.
Yes. And it is announced as they enter that Spooky Island is a spring break spot for college students, which is not like, obviously those exist, but they're usually just vacation spots that college students happen to go to.
Well, it's like a parody of Disney, and Disney's like, bring your child here, and this one's like, no, we're scary and spooky.
But Disney doesn't have loudspeaker announcements that are like, welcome to Disney World, a spring break spot for children, because you're already there for the first part. And also, anybody can go, the same way seemingly anyone could go to Spooky Island if they wanted to.
Do we see any children in Spooky Island? Is it just, maybe you have to be...
I guess not, because it's for college students.
Do you think you have to have a college, or you have to be like, you to show like you're in a college? It's like for fast food, like whenever you want money or
it's like student ID, student discount, except it's student admittance. But then the Mystery Inc. gang couldn't get in.
Well, they're being specially invited, so they get to pass by.
Okay, well, that's true. And it's weird because it's a spring break spot for college students, but all the attractions map 1-to-1, at least the ones that we hear of, to Disney World.
Yeah.
There's a haunted mansion. There's...
Well, that one just, that one just says
like
Disney World.
Creepy Small World.
It's a spooky world after all, I think is what it's called.
It is good that they have a castle because there are so many castles in Scooby Doo.
I like that their change, like the thing they're worried about, like Rowan Atkinson's character, he's like, you should look at these college kids. What's wrong with them? And they're like, they look like well-behaved college kids. He's like, I know, that's the issue. I'm like, this is like an adult's idea of like college, like as if college students can't sit in a line. All
the hip troublemaker type kids in this are so... You mentioned A Cinderella Story being aggressively early 2000s. This has the same overriding aesthetic behind it as like the special features of Shrek. Smash Mouth.
Sugar Ray is in this movie. I completely forgot that Sugar Ray's in this movie, but I don't know. There's something like the dialogue and how they're talking to each other, and it sounds so unnatural, and so it makes the dialogue sound cartoony, which if you watch, we watched the original ones and they talk somewhat like that in some of those versions. Not to that extent. I can think they're doing a parody of it, but it's just very funny.
I do think this movie has a very unique visual look to it that is pretty nice. Like it's very saturated. Mm-hmm. And
I also think
it's just like very what?
I was gonna say it's very maximalist in terms of like set design, because I think of like there's just always something to look at.
It's sort of Mystery Men, if you've seen that.
I've not seen that.
But there's this like you watch like any old children's movie from before the year like 2010, and you're just like, man, we forgot how to make movies, because even if this movie is bad, it looks so much better than...
Yeah, and I think it comes down to a combination of I think the way cameras have changed, not that,
Yeah, shooting on film versus digital.
But I also think that just so much more is like shot like with physical, like nothing CGI in this movie other than like Scooby and Scrappy.
The monsters, which do not look good.
I mean, like in terms of like the sets. So like they're occupying a real space.
Right. And then, so they arrive at the island, they talk to people sort of their first main adventure is going to that castle. And this is where we need to address the elephant in the room. Shaggy or Fred? Who's hotter?
It's going to be Shaggy for me, and I'm not going to explain why because I don't want it on record, but it's going to be Shaggy for me.
But obviously so they have the line where Fred's like, I'm a man of substance. Dorky chicks like you turn me on too, directly to Velma.
Himbo.
Well, it brings up this thing people talk about, and we've talked about this. It's like, people are like, are you a Velma man or a Daphne man? And I remember our friend Justin was like, my uncle asked me that one day. But the thing about it is that if you're someone who asks that, then you're a Velma man, because Daphne people just assume everyone thinks
that's true.
Daphne is the hottest one.
Yeah, they have the privilege of not having to be worried about it. Of course, then, and we didn't watch this movie, but in the second one, whenever Velma puts on that latex suit, I would.
Linda Cardellini better than Sarah Michelle Gellar. And then, so they walk around the castle. this is one of the big things I noticed that because we were talking about the burping and farting scene, unless you have something before the burping and farting scene to mention.
No, I mean, I was just going to mention, I already I love the set design. I like looking in the castle at every moment.
Specifically, I don't necessarily think the burping and farting scene is that funny, but what I did appreciate about it is that this is a movie that takes so many detours to just like have 3 minutes where you get to watch the characters be the characters, and it's not stressed about making sure the plot is moving forward, even though it's still a pretty tight, like 100-minute movie. Yeah. And I feel like if this movie were being made today, that is an element that would get streamlined out of it because it wouldn't be seen as like, oh, tight, clever screenwriting.
It is the antithesis of everything that's wrong with all Netflix specials nowadays, where you can't have the characters do anything other than move the plot forward, and it's just because of Reddit, and I hate Reddit.
Like, there is an art to a nice, tight 90-minute screenplay where everything has a purpose, but, letting people live with the characters is also a purpose, and I appreciate that this is like almost equal parts a plot and just seeing the characters be the characters in live action. And
I think part of the reason it works so well is because that's kind of the heart or crux of this film, is them getting to like each other again, so they need to be able to interact with each other. Like, if they were just solving a mystery and they hadn't broken up at the beginning of the movie, then I think it would maybe feel a little bit more wasteful, because it's like, well, this is them getting back to liking each other. I did notice, and I don't know if you noticed this, and this is the first time I've ever actually noticed this, they have the different things labeled in like the different parts of that set where they're like farting as like, here's the painting, and it's like in English, and then there's like a monster script. I'm like, it's because their monsters need to learn what English is so they can pass as students, which I found fascinating. It's like in terms of like a small set design detail.
Oh yeah, no, I had never noticed that. Once they leave the castle, this is very minor, but I just noticed that Velma is talking to that dude who's trying to like hit on her, and then they both get served drinks on the house, and Velma drinks it, and I just don't think she would have had her guard down that far after being attacked in a castle on a mysterious island, that she would just accept random drinks.
This is your concept of what a nerd is, Josh. She likes to party. She wants to be invited.
Yeah, but women who like to party know not to drink random cocktails that they're given.
Josh, I don't think that's a reality that the movie wants to like entertain and bring to the forefront.
They didn't have to include it.
No, she needs to be a little drunk.
Paid for a cocktail.
I don't know.
Maybe they're on the house because she is helping solve the island mystery. That is an explanation I'll accept.
And I guess the on the house line kind of goes against this. I always just assumed that it was him who was like purchasing it for her, getting it for her, and he was just pretending it wasn't him.
Maybe. Okay, I have one more major point, and then my notes really fell off a cliff, as in I don't have any past that. So I'll let you take the lead for a bit here.
My only other point in this sequence is I feel like in comparison to the original series, you see a lot more like investigation where they're talking through their thought process of like what's happening, which I feel like in the TV show, like that didn't happen. Like you just had like them moving from place to place and them doing things, and they would occasionally point out a clue, but they wouldn't tell you about it or work their way through it. They would just be like, oh, that's a clue, and they move on. And at the end, they explain everything.
Both of the episodes I watched were just essentially extended chase sequences where the characters occasionally went, how is that roller coaster operating on its own? How are those hot dogs flying out of that hot dog cart on their own? And then eventually they collide with the person that's chasing them and rip their mask off.
Yeah.
So the fact that they did any thinking or detective work at all really bolstered the whodunit aspect of this one. But I think it just comes down to it being movie length. I mean, you can't do such scant detective work in an entire movie.
I don't know. Like, I mean, part of it feels like it's just because there's more moments where they're sitting down and talking. And if you cut out maybe 10% of the chase sequences, you could have that spread out across the other dialogues where they're talking about things. Did you have anything to say about the flashback with Scrappy Doo?
Ooh.
Other than that.
No.
I had two thoughts. One, and I wonder if this is a relic of like an earlier script, because apparently the earlier script was supposed to be kind of R-rated.
What I was reading, because I was trying to get to the bottom of this, is that the original script was PG-13. But supposedly, and this kind of, I struggle to believe this, because I think by the time they were shooting, they were aiming for PG, but supposedly they still ended up with a cut of the movie that got rated R by the MPAA. And it was because there was like one joke in the movie that the MPAA misunderstood to be a reference to oral sex when it was not. But
what joke do you think that is?
I don't see, well, I think they cut the joke, but I don't see how, I think you could put one joke about oral sex in a PG-13 movie. So I don't see how that could be true.
It could be like a straw that broke the camel's back. I mean, age ratings
broke the camel's back between PG and R.
Well, it's PG-13 and R.
It was the one fuck they gave Scooby that.
Oh yeah, okay.
Accidentally sent them over the edge, and they had to cut that.
Where are you going to put the fuck in this movie for PG-13? Where are you going to put it? I think I want to give it to Scrappy.
Yeah, in the flashback.
I might give it to Scrappy in the flashback. It's very funny for him to be like sitting there at the very end after they kick him out, where he's just like, fuck.
Or I think somewhere within all the body swapping, maybe one of the characters could get away with it. Although then it might be a sexual use of the word fuck, and that's an automatic R, so.
Well, I mean, we still have that line where Fred gets into Daphne's body, and he's like, I can look at myself naked. And then he looks down his shirt. I'm just like, interesting time, James Gunn. No, but my thing about the flashback, and this is the part I think is maybe a holdover from a little bit, is Velma, like, and I don't know how much of this is just supposed to be seen as like standard female envy, where she's like, Daphne, she was always so beautiful. And then she's like, Fred was always so handsome and knew how to accessorize. And I'm like, is Velma bisexual in this movie?
I thought that was a reference to the fact that wearing an ascot is a very strange thing to do in the year 2002, which obviously they kept it for, fidelity to the cartoon reasons, but nobody was doing that. So,
well, yeah, but I mean, she's like, I mean, the two things she says about Shaggy and Scooby is that they're fun to be around. And the things that she says about Velma or about Daphne is that she's hot. And the thing she says about Fred is that he's hot. And I'm like, is this supposed to be like...
But I do think that there was a subplot of that in the PG-13 version. There was like implied lesbian tension. I did read that.
This does lead into my thought process, or kind of towards the end of the movie, where Daphne and Fred have to kiss because they have to get together, which is not like a unresolved plot point at all throughout the rest of this movie, other than the fact that he thinks that she's hot. And I'm like, if they cared about
it was a studio note to make sure it wasn't gay.
Well, if there was a coherency to the theme, he should have stuck by the dorky chicks turn me on too, and dated Velma.
He said two, clearly. All chicks turn him on. He's being true to his character.
You could have done a polygamy kind of relationship, although that'd be very weird to have in 2002, where he's like, I got both of these chicks.
Yeah, it would be weird. Moving on.
But the other thing is, I don't know if you caught this. I mean, I've noticed it multiple times. Scrappy Doo's not a puppy in this continuity in this movie. Like, at this point, he's no longer a puppy. He's just got a gland issue. And I'm just like, why are we making fun of this dog that has a size that it didn't do anything?
He's annoying. And he peed on Daphne.
James Gunn, stop making size jokes.
So my overall point, and I don't know that this is actually important in this particular movie, but a few episodes ago, you made the point about Pirates of the Caribbean that everybody behaves logically and nobody holds the quote-unquote idiot ball. And every single character in this movie holds the idiot ball in order to progress the plot at some point.
But I mean, this is as close to a stoner comedy as you can get without it being a stoner comedy. And that's what a stoner comedy is.
But it's just like, obviously Shaggy and Scooby get got by any promise of food, which is fine. But they had to make Daphne and Fred extra stupid, like I said, compared to their prior portrayal. And even Velma, cocktail aside, I feel like there's some very dumb stuff that happens.
Like what?
It's not leaping to mind.
The reason I push back is because I don't actually think... I mean, I kind of see that. I think that Fred is definitely dumber than he is in the cartoon. But I feel like Velma and Daphne seem like logically competent characters and don't really hold the idiot ball.
Is Scrappy Doo's scheme absurdly over the top for the amount of vengeance he is seeking and the problems in his life?
Yeah, but that's just who Scrappy Doo is. He's the drama queen, like.
Because I feel like Scooby Doo villains tend to be like, it's like, I live on this island and I am menacing this population, whereas Scrappy Doo is like, I am converting this island into my slaves to take over the world because I got kicked out of Mystery Inc.
Well, it's one of those things where, like, every so often, like, there's like a trajectory of like a transition in Scooby Doo, like over the series, where they'll start off by being like, ghosts aren't real. They're always just men in masks. They're doing something to like make money or whatever. And then at some point that stops being good enough and they start transitioning to being actually the monsters are real in some capacity and they're either like super dangerous or they're world ending. And so like you got to stop them in that way. Cause like even before this one, I don't actually know if it's before this one. There's that like sequence of like 4 movies. It's like The Witch's Ghost, Zombie
I
Island.
always thought the rule was kind of that if it's a feature-length movie, whether it's on TV or in theaters, it can have some element of the real supernatural, but TV show episodes are usually mundane.
I'm pretty sure that there are seasons of the TV show where some of them are real. I mean, for some reason, it makes sense from a tension standpoint if you're going to have a live action thing where the threat is not just some guy in a mask. Although I kind of push back on that because I don't really see the need. Like, I would be just as captivated if it was someone trying to shut down Spooky Island, because I like Spooky Island as a place and I want to continue. So it doesn't necessarily need to be Scrappy Doo's harvesting the souls of humankind to take over the world.
Yeah, it's just crazy that, I mean, when you stop and think about it, and it's like, oh, our weird tiny dog enemy got to this island before us and was corrupted by a demon textbook.
I'm not corrupted. I'm like 90% sure he did it. Like, he was like, he sought it out.
I do feel like after about halfway, the movie kind of kicks into gear. They're in a bunch of chases and set pieces. And I mean, it's this thing that I've noticed with some other, it's like they've set it up. They've done a lot of the like references to prior material that they're basing it on. And now that the movie's in gear, I have less to say because it's less based on what came before. So what thoughts do you have on the final half of the movie?
Well, I wrote down Sugar Ray equals Sugar Gay because there's that very famous like clip of the teenage boy calling the lead singer of Sugar Ray Sugar Gay, and he got getting obsessively like angry at him and like shouting the F word at him a bunch of times. Find that funny. And I don't know if I'm overthinking this, but they keep all the souls in that kind of cauldron, and it's very, Hercules, Disney underworld kind of thing where they're like circling or whatever. And they have like Shaggy go in there and like grab them. And I don't know if I'm overthinking this, but earlier in the movie, he talks about how he's good at claw games, and I wonder if that's supposed to like set up that he's capable of putting his hand down there and like picking them up effectively.
I feel like that. Again, this is the thing. I feel feels like there's some version of the script where that was highlighted more, but by the time you get to it in the movie, I don't think it connects. I mean, you connected it, but I've never noticed that. But I think you have a point that I think the screenwriter was thinking that.
Well, because I was thinking about it in the context of, I feel like in the Scooby Doo Where Are You show, there's lots of moments where Shaggy has like a skill that like he never brings up again, and I wonder if it was like an echo of that being a thing, like him being a gymnast in the first episode, or him being a ventriloquist and can throw his voice. I was wondering if there was something like with that being in there.
Yeah, I buy it.
Other thing. Oh, this should be interesting. So when they're being chased, Scooby like falls down into the hole, and he's like kidnapped. And Shaggy's like, Mary Jane, I'm going to go rescue him. Mary Jane responds in a man's voice. And I was just thinking about it in the context of like trans panic, where she's already being duplicitous because she's a demon at this point. And I wonder if there's some undergoing, like the addition of the male voice not fitting her body, which is not like anything else you see in the movie in terms of like people who are possessed. They all kind of have their same normal voice. But in this one case, it's like a reflection of like how wrong they are.
I buy it. I think it's one of those, it was in the air, subconsciously added things.
Oh yeah, I don't think it was intentional. I just think it's, what can we do to reveal definitely that this person's a bad person, and it's to give them a man's voice in a woman's body.
Right.
Other things I have Scooby as the heart of the 5-man band, because I was kind of tracking that throughout the thing, which makes sense because he's the pure of heart, he's the sacrifice. Fred definitely murders those people when he slings the climbing gear at their heads and just like knocks them out. He like definitely murders them. They're definitely dead.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as an adventure movie goes, they have a pretty low body count, so it's fine.
That's true. And then the only other thing, it was the Fred and Daphne relationship being weird as like a culminating thing of their arc. Because I don't know why.
Really in a rom-com-esque plot or anything.
Because there's that part early on whenever Freddy gets captured and he's like, "Save Daphne." It seems like it's there a little bit, but it just feels like it's an echo of an earlier script where they're more directly trying to get together.
Yeah, and Fred definitely seems more invested in it than Daphne. Does she make any indication? I mean, before that, of being attracted to him?
No, I think it's more of a one-sided relationship. I mean, she's much more concerned about her own personal like self-image of as no longer being a damsel in distress.
She's suffering from compulsory heterosexuality.
I mean, Fred has that book, Fred on Fred, and I'm like, that's a gay joke right there.
Good movie. Definitely, and I apologize for my lack of commentary. Definitely sleeping a little bit in the last half. Not because of the movie's fault, but because I don't sleep a lot these days. If turning Scooby Doo into a movie or a video game, how difficult would it be?
I would probably put it at a Yoshi.
As in
Second.
moderately. Yeah. Second most easy.
Because it has all the stuff that you need. Like it has a underlying plot where you can have them trying to solve a mystery at some kind of locale that has a set piece that they can kind of get chased around in or kind of do things in. And of course, if you're doing a full length feature film, maybe you have 2 set pieces or 2 kind of chase sequences like this movie has. So you have that kind of underlying there. You have all kind of the necessary character dynamics that you need, and you can rearrange them as you see fit. And so I think it needs a little bit of work because I don't think it just falls out of, let's just make a Scooby-Doo episode that's 30 minutes long, make it into an hour and a half long. I don't think that gets you there. I think you need a little bit more in terms of upping the ante, whether that's making the monsters more real or making the threat more serious in some way.
Yeah, I agree. And but even upping the ante, because there are, like we said, the TV movies that are animated of Scooby-Doo that are maybe not 90 minutes, but 70 or 80 or whatever. And they up the ante in the sense that they tend to have more real threats that they're investigating, tends to be more real magic more often. But if you had just made something with the tenor of the animated Scooby-Doo movies, it would not have been good. So there was also, I don't know, just the adapting it into feeling less, I don't know, it's hard to like put into words, but.
So I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think what you're saying is because it's live action, there's already an inherent like downplay of the silliness or the kind of cartoon aspect to it. And so the way they counteract that is by kind of hamming up the dialogue and hamming up the action.
Yeah, because I'm imagining if they had just done something similar to the cartoons, it would have ended up as like a perfectly competent adventure story, but actually kind of lost its identity. So I think they did a good job at hamming it up and making it more interesting in that way.
I almost feel because of that because the CGI of like Scooby and the monsters and Scrappy looks so fake, I think it does it a good service of like feeling kind of still cartoony. Like I feel like you could do, if you were to make it today, and let's say you have Disney budget and you're making it like the live action Lion King or whatever, with like alongside human people, I just feel like it would be a lot worse because it couldn't convey that sense of toon-ness.
Yes, I agree. So it's a Yoshi. Does it complete it?
I mean,
I think we both like this movie quite a bit.
I would have to say it completes it because I mean, we started talking about it 25 years later, and it's a live action Scooby Doo movie. It does everything it needs to be doing. Like it goes above and beyond what the show is because it has emotional stakes that aren't really present in the show. It makes you care about the characters in ways that the show doesn't actually make you care about them because it's an episodic TV show that you're not supposed to like.
And it does all those things without feeling not like it's based on the show. Like it doesn't feel embarrassed of.
It's a natural extension.
Because sometimes you get these things and like I'm thinking about Riverdale, which I mean, Riverdale to some degree has an affection for its source material, but it also almost feels embarrassed of Archie comics. And even though it's infinitely more embarrassing than Archie comics ever could be.
You watched more Riverdale than I did, which is a damning combination.
As a season and a half of Riverdale, I did not watch.
And when you go up to the pearly gates, Josh, St. Peter's going to be like, well, you watched a season and a half of Riverdale.
That's the main sin I'll have to answer for. Yeah.
It's more coherent and like keeping in tone with the comics in the earlier seasons than the later seasons, right?
I mean, even in the early seasons, it's very gritty and dark. But they're written, the guy who wrote or show ran Riverdale is also one of the comics writers for Archie. And he has done, like, edgy versions of Archie in the comics. But, like, obviously, classic Archie comics is, like, peanuts. It's like the characters never change. They never progress. They're younger than in Riverdale. There's actually a very good Archie comics run where they rebooted it and gave it a continuity, but it was still, like, not edgy.
Well, I almost feel like, I do think that the Scooby-Doo movie turned out as well as it did is probably a product of its time, because I feel like if you tried to make a live-action Scooby-Doo now, I mean, it would turn out like Velma, but live action.
I don't think it would turn out like Velma, because I think at this point, even Velma, I mean, people didn't like that idea when it happened. It's like a decade old kind of thing. I think it would end up feeling like the new Ghostbusters movies, where it's like, why are you being so precious about this Bill Murray comedy from the 80s, where he makes a bunch of penis jokes? Like the whole like over the top legacy sequel, like feel, I think is what it would have if they tried to make it now.
Well, they are making a new Scooby-Doo movie too.
Are they?
Yeah.
I've heard that the cast of these two, at least some of them, are interested in making a 3. And I think if that happens, it really runs the risk of feeling like a legacy sequel.
Oh, sorry. Netflix is launching a live-action series titled Scooby Doo Origins.
Yeah, that is the exact... I mean, naming anything Origins immediately drops it. Like,
well, I recall
quality.
I think I only saw this movie once, and I only saw it, maybe when it first came out. But the Scooby Doo, the first mystery or whatever, where they're in high school and they're solving, I think the villain ends up being their principal, because of course it does, because it's a high school movie.
That's a live-action TV movie, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like half Breakfast Club, half Scooby Doo, from what I understand, because they get caught in detention.
In the course of, again, looking facts about this movie up, I found the actor of Shaggy in those movies Reddit account.
Oh. Anything interesting in the Reddit account?
Well, the reason I found it is because I was on the thread about whether Shaggy was deliberately a stoner, and he had a reply where he didn't say who he was, but he just said, when I auditioned, they told me to act more high, so I think they knew that he's a stoner.
Well, I think it's one of those things where anytime you have a character that exists over a period of time, they're going to get flanderized. That's the
but I was
trait
like, what does he mean
thought.
when he auditioned, they told him to act more high? Who is this guy? So at first I was like, is this Matthew Lillard?
He's too good for Reddit.
But then I searched his account and I figured it out. And somebody was like, is this guy LARPing as whatever that guy's name is? And he was like, yeah, I guess you could say that. Why would nobody would be LARPing as this guy? He's obviously the actual guy.
I don't know, Josh. People have a lot of free time on their hands. If you had to pick one minor actor to LARP as a Reddit account, which one are you choosing?
Minor actor to LARP as account. This is a tough one. Melvin Dew.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking the kid from the Minecraft movie.
I would be the person who had to wear the thumb suits in Spy Kids.
Oh, aren't those just CGI?
Yeah, I would just make a lot of Reddit comments about how hot and sweaty the thumb suit was.
Josh, you have to leave your thumb horniness out of this podcast.
What? No. And, I'd be like, Alan Cummings didn't have to wear the thumb suit. They should kick him off the traders and let me host, because he didn't suffer like...
What a cursed TV or movie series that is. Like, imagine being like thumbs and like bringing it to life.
The first one is good.
I mean, the second one's good too.
The second one has some incredible moments, as we all know, but does not cohere as much.
And then the third one is...
Right, I think we've...
Exhausted this? Yeah.
Yeah, we've exhausted this topic. If you have listened to this point, thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed it, rate us on whatever platform you are listening on. Leave a comment. Subscribe so that you don't miss our future episodes. Our email is adaptiveDifficultyPod@gmail.com. We also now have a YouTube channel, which is hosting, of course, episodes of our show, but also short clips. So if you just want a reminder of things we said in the past, find us at Adaptive Difficulty on YouTube. And next time, we will be covering Crazy Rich Asians.
Thanks to everyone who made this podcast possible. Thanks to those wonderful cast and crew who made this particular adaptation possible. Thanks for making the world just a little bit more artful. Thanks to you guys for listening. It really means a lot to us. And so join us next time when we do Crazy Rich Asians.